Okay, that makes sense. I'd see some chats.
Okay, folks, I think that's probably close enough to 7 o'clock. I heard the chimes, so we're gonna call it 7 o'clock and we will open our meeting. First of all, thank you everyone for attending our planning and zoning meeting tonight. We're going to do our roll call. Marcus Nicolai here. Daniel Webster.
Here.
Laura Kelly. Here. Jerry Nelson.
Here.
Tommy Smith.
Here.
And Berta Tucker. Here. Thank you. Second is a review and approval of minutes from the August 10th, 2021 meeting. We have a motion for income.
Oh.
Nobody said any comments on the minutes, right? Okay. I just wanted to make a clarification.
Yes.
I didn't get a chance to talk to you. I wanted to clarify on the minutes of our last meeting, that when it came to the vote, Daniel, I think there was some misinformation or misunderstanding on the vote. So I wanted to make sure that we get clarified in our minutes that it was a 4-3 vote. Daniel's vote was a nay. And part of the just so everybody understands, we have a written packet that the planning and zoning administrator sends out to us. And he had a written motion that we could make. However, a board member decided to make a different motion, so it got a little bit confusing. And I asked for some clarification, and I don't think through video conferencing that clarification maybe got through. But I do want to make sure that we get that in the record, that your vote,
That's
what your
right.
vote was.
Yep. I couldn't hear much in the Zoom meeting, so
Yeah, I know
I
it's
was
difficult.
confused on that.
The fact that the member made a different one than what was written in your packet, that's understandable. So if we can have that changed.
Yes, so I can change it in these ones, but because the meeting was adjourned with that vote, it would say the 5-2 in here. In these meeting minutes, I'll put clarification that it was really 4-3.
Okay.
That work?
Yes, yes, yeah, we can make a note about that, and then I'll sign that. Okay, so then we have a motion on that. With that change. And do we have a second? I'll second. And vote to approve the minutes with those changes. I'm going to do a yes or no vote.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. All right, new business. This is opening the public hearing. Kevin and Sheila Stump Revocable Trust and Kurt and Julie Stump Revocable Trust amendment to the official zoning atlas rezoning from A1 agricultural preservation to I1 industrial zoning district for approximately 44.8 acres of vacant land located at the northeast intersection of Poplar Avenue and US Highway 20. Yeah, do you have some information for us?
Yeah, good evening, Madam Chair. Jeff Johnson, Planning and Zoning Administrator. I do have a presentation this evening. The advertisement for this public hearing has been placed in the Fort Dodge Messenger, the Dayton Leader, and the Gallery News. Property owners within 500 feet of the subject property were notified by mail. Staff did not receive any written or emails, correspondence in favor or against this petition. It's been rather quiet. Next slide, please. The applicant, the Stoke family, is requesting a zoning change from the A1 agricultural preservation to the I industrial zoning district. As depicted on this map, the subject approximately 45 acres of vacant land is outlined in red and is located approximately 1 mile east of Colville at the northeast intersection of US Highway 20 and Poplar Avenue. The applicant is proposing to construct a 110,500 square foot distribution center on the property. The applicant has submitted a site plan as per Webster County Code requirements and is binding upon the applicant for construction of said uses and improvements. As we get back to this map, the subject property is surrounded by agricultural croplands to the north, east, and west. It should be noted that the applicant owns the majority of the lands, with the exception of the parcel located to the northeast that are directly adjacent. As you're aware, the property at the northwest intersection of US Highway 20 and Poplar Avenue was recently rezoned to commercial for a travel center. Construction should be commencing in the next couple weeks. The required transportation improvements, which include the paving of Poplar and acceleration and deceleration lanes for US Highway 20, should commence spring of next year. The closest single-family home to this rezoning is on the north side of Highway 20 and is located to the east and is located approximately, well, it's over 1,000 feet from the applicant's property line. So we have a substantial buffer here. And to the south is US Highway 20, which is a 4-lane divided major arterial that varies from 450 to 600 feet in width, which also provides a substantial buffer to the property line to the south. Next slide, please. This is the county's official zoning map. The subject property is outlined in black that is proposed to be rezoned. This currently zoned A1 preservation as shown in yellow and is surrounded by similar A1 zoning with the exception of the 24 acres as shown in pink, which was recently rezoned by the supervisors last month. It's 24 acres as shown in pink that is zoned commercial. Next slide, Allison, please. Some photos of the site. This is a photograph taken at the intersection of Poplar Avenue and US Highway 20 looking north. Next slide. This photograph is taken at the same location. You can see the farmstead that's located off to the northeast of the distance. Next slide, please. This slide is an excerpt from the Webster County Comprehensive Plan. This is the County Land Use Management Plan, or CLUMP map, which designates 3 types of tiers to manage future orderly growth and development by protecting the general health, safety, and welfare of the citizens while encouraging a strong economic base. The subject property is located in the reserve policy tier, which is brown in color, which allows for an acceptable industrial land use, which is consistent with the proposed industrial zoning before you this evening. Per the Webster County Comprehensive Plan, the CLUMP establishes a long-range management policy that provides guidance for future development on the belief that development pressures and demands exist, and that the best approach is to acknowledge and accommodate these pressures through proper planning. And we'll get through the proper planning aspects of it, the site plan, etc. The plan states when making future land use and zoning decision, this tier policy requires any of the use types listed, including industrial, to be located within the urban reserve policy tier. These tiers should allow for ample development opportunities while allowing for a controlled growth policy. All future development, including intense development, should be located in the designated areas to minimize future sprawl and haphazard development. Staff has reviewed the request in accordance with the criteria to evaluate a zoning change to industrial as outlined in the comprehensive plan. The change in zoning is limited to lands that have frontage adjacent to a major arterial, US Highway 20, and are located at an intersection with full access to Poplar and US 20 access that capture east and westbound vehicular trips. The issue of spot zoning is often brought up. It should be noted that spot zoning is not defined in our zoning ordinance, and therefore we rely on the state definition and how this is defined. Spot zoning occurs when a change in zoning is at odds with the county's comprehensive plan. As previously mentioned, this request is not at odds with the comprehensive plan and allows for industrial land use in the clump. The proposed zoning to industrial is consistent with the industrial land use. It's important to note that the applicant has agreed this is proper planning to a condition of approval that restricts the allowable uses on the subject property to clean industry. Clean industry uses only, more specifically indoor manufacturing, indoor warehousing and storage with no exterior storage of equipment or materials. By doing this, the applicant has diminished a lot of negative impacts associated with the industrial uses pertaining to noise, dust, odor, vibration, and unsightly visual impacts. If the applicant did not agree to this condition, the industrial zoning district would allow such entitlements under permitted and conditional uses such as auto wrecking salvage yards, junk yards, a concrete batch plant, and similar outdoor uses that, to be honest, are not aesthetically pleasing or pleasant. Next slide, please. This is the applicant's site plan to construct a 110,500 square foot warehouse distribution center with Poplar Avenue ingress egress. The loading zones would be located at the rear of the building, so they're not visible from the US Highway 20 corridor. And a masonry wing wall would be constructed parallel to Poplar Avenue to provide additional screening so that the trucks would not be visible. This layout would showcase the architecture of the building from both right-of-ways. A substantial buffer of evergreens would be planted on the north and east sides that would grow in time to provide screening from the loading zones and parking areas. Again, this is over 2,000 feet, or I should say 1,500 feet from a single family home. The applicant has also agreed to pave the entire length of Poplar Avenue between US Highway 20 and 230th Street. In terms of adequate public facilities, the applicant's traffic impact study was prepared for the travel center and accommodates the proposed warehouse space. Therefore, no transportation improvements besides the ones I previously mentioned and discussed will be required. The applicant will be required to provide electric to the site and provide an on-site septic and drain field as well. Next slide, please. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan based on its site characteristics. It lies in the urban reserve area that allows industry as an acceptable land use. It's located in an existing intersection that has full access. It has frontage adjacent to a major arterial. Again, this thoroughfare is responsible for the movement of a substantial amount of goods. And furthermore, the property to be rezoned is substantially buffered. So therefore, staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions, and I'll go through these conditions. The first one is that the development shall be constructed in conformity with the site plan submitted for the rezoning petition. The principal uses on the subject property shall be restricted to indoor manufacturing, indoor warehouse storage, no exterior storage of equipment or materials. The applicant is responsible for all applicable federal and state and local permits and licenses to operate the said use on the property. Fourth condition requires a photometric or exterior lighting plan to be submitted showing that foot candle readings will basically be at zero at the property line and that there are no negative impacts of lighting shed onto adjacent properties. The fifth condition, if you want to go to the next slide, Allison, requires all the landscaping to be installed in a timely manner and remain healthy for a 3-year period. And if the landscaping were to die, the applicant or property owner is required to replace that. So staff will follow up with an inspection during that time period to make sure that the landscaping is thriving, especially to provide that buffer to those loading zones that I previously mentioned. Sixth condition requires that all signage obtain a Webster County sign permit. Next condition, prior to occupying the warehouse distribution facility, the applicant shall construct the improvements to the intersection of Poplar Avenue and US Highway 20, as stated in the traffic impact study for the proposed travel center. Said improvements shall be subject to the review and approval of the Iowa Department of Transportation and Webster County engineer. Next condition is prior to the occupancy of the warehouse distribution facility, the applicant shall construct improvements to Poplar Avenue and US Highway 20 to 230th Street. Said improvements shall include grading and paving and all ancillary costs. These improvements shall be reviewed and approved by the county engineer. And the second to the last one is that the applicant shall reimburse the Webster County Secondary Road Department for all future costs of maintenance and repair of the improved roadway. And then the last condition is an amended condition, which states that the applicant fails to obtain a building permit approval for the county for the warehouse distribution center facility by May 15th of 2023. The applicant shall submit a petition for a zoning atlas amendment or rezoning to convert the zoning designation back to A1, agricultural preservation. And he has a timeline to do that, so that is done in the time limit. So that concludes staff's presentation. If there's any questions that the Planning and Zoning Commission has.
Can I ask a question back to your clump map? How old was that? When was that?
That goes back to the comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2008.
That's all for you, Jeff?
That's all.
So did you have any comments, or did you want to wait till after your public comments or board comments?
Well, I did have one question just for Jeff. In terms, I think there's some confusion about the clump versus the comprehensive plan. Perhaps I'm confused. I thought those were two different things. That the clump is perhaps referenced by the comprehensive plan, but isn't there a comprehensive plan map that for this area that's different than what's in the clump map?
We have a future land use map. Is that what you're referring to?
Sure, and that part of, and that's what's in the comprehensive plan.
Also,
Land use.
yeah.
Correct.
It's a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now I think I understand. One of my jobs as county attorney is to advise all boards and to advise department heads and to advise board of supervisors. When I received the packet from Mr. Johnson, I reviewed it. I had some initial concerns with it as being different than the commercial rezoning request that was done across the street that we just got done with. And the which the board of supervisors and gave approval. And I advised I did not believe that constituted illegal spot zoning in that case. In this case, I think there's maybe a distinction in the position that Mr. Johnson is taking with the clump is basically what the comprehensive plan stands for. That's not my understanding. And if I'm wrong, maybe the higher authority can set us straight as to who's right and who's wrong. But the way I see it, based on my review of case law, is that in this particular case, this is spot zoning, but that doesn't mean it's illegal. Spot zoning just means one piece of land surrounded by something else. It's treated differently. That's what happened with the commercial. That was a spot zone, but spot zoning isn't automatically a bad thing. It just means it's treated differently than the surrounding parties. So it can be legitimate legal reasons for treating a piece of property differently. One of those reasons is that it provides a significant benefit. And also, as Jeff had previously stated, this is right on point. For both of these projects, that would argue potentially, but for the commercial benefit, it gave a benefit to the public. I see different than the industrial rezoning. I see a benefit to the public having a place right on 20 to stop between Rockville City and Webster City. So I can say, yeah, there's a community benefit to the last project. I don't see that element here as a direct community benefit. So when I've gone through the Iowa Supreme Court case law, my opinion is that the current application is illegal spot zoning if it were to be approved. My concern would be that there's a good chance that it would be reversed by the courts as illegal spot zoning because it does not have the component of the last application had, which is a significant community benefit. I think it would fall under the case law that says it constitutes a piecemeal or haphazard rezoning of small tract of land for the benefit of the owner and not pursue the comprehensive plan for general welfare. Now, if I'm wrong that the clump is the comprehensive plan, then that changes the dynamic on that. But if the clump is kind of a future use guide and not the actual comprehensive plan map that we should utilize, my advice to the county officials county has been, I think, the application is illegal. That's my take.
I don't know if this will help with some clarification. The comprehensive plan contains 3 maps. Comprehensive plan contains our actual zoning map. It contains future land use map, and then it contains the plan. My understanding, that's looked at as kind of a progression. We have what our actual zoning is. The future land use map would be what we're expecting in the future outside of that. And then the clump is kind of the long-term goal. And I guess that's my opinion, I guess, on it.
That's been consistent with the way I was interpreting it as well. Because the clump is more of a long-range plan that you try to look at things where it's going in the future.
Mhm.
But that's not necessarily for purposes of my understanding of case law and how I'm interpreting it. The comprehensive plan does not include necessarily the map from the clump. So I think just because it's in the clump, it doesn't make it consistent with the comprehensive plan. That's what I'm basing my opinion on. This, if it were to be granted, if it were to be. That's the risk. I could be wrong. The courts would ultimately have to decide that if there was a legal challenge if this went through. But after reading through a lot of case law and wrestling with this, there a way this can go through and not violate this. What the linchpin for me was I don't think it provides a community benefit, which is what I think I rested. That it's not illegal spot zoning, even spot zoning on the last application. I see those as very distinct issues. I, as a traveler, don't get benefit from having a warehouse on the side of the road. There's some benefit to taxpayers, obviously, if there's increased tax revenue. There's benefit to having, some sort of facility that helps commerce generally in the area, but not the same sort of direct community benefit you got. Being able to just come right off the 20 from Webster City, Rockville City, have a place right off the road. That's where I think this is lacking in my analysis. So that's where I'm.
Okay, would the applicant like to make any comment at this time? Okay. Yeah.
I have a test of questions. And she was done. Okay, so one of the things that you said that there was not community benefit. So I would argue that jobs and taxes from this would be a community benefit.
I can see that.
That would be, and then the case law that you're referring to, I believe it was in conjunction with a case with a gun, like a shooting range or something in Eastern Iowa.
One of the Supreme Court cases involves that. I think they said that wasn't significant enough, even though that arguably has a superior community benefit than the warehouse.
Well, I mean, that wouldn't provide any jobs or like really any much for tax revenue. So
I agree.
I would say this would be provide a much more larger community benefit than that. And then the other thing was that if the clump map is a long-term goal and a long-term like plan, and it was developed in 2008, I'd say we're kind of, what is long-term? I guess we might be at long-term at this point. Would be my.
Oh, I agree with you. We're in the process, we've been in the process of trying to get the comprehensive plan updated. The comprehensive plan, it's my understanding, as it was written, it was roughly a 20-year out plan. And we're 10 years into that, and that's why we've been trying to get things updated. When COVID hit, we kind of hit a snag because we weren't able to get updated population numbers. And some jobs maybe got those in the public. Are they coming? Okay. So yeah, you're right. We're halfway through this comprehensive plan, and it'll be time for the board to start taking a look at what's in here, how things have changed, how our demographic has changed, what we got for population, jobs, housing, all those kinds of things, and look at making some changes to it. You're right.
And typically, when you would update that, would that area shrink? The clump map, would it become smaller or would it extend?
That's up that we don't know.
I would say probably extend.
It's
With growth like along 20, I feel like 20 is now, more of a major thoroughfare in the state. And I would, obviously it's your job, not mine, but I would just, think that it would probably be a larger area.
Well, you know, it's everybody's job, it's everybody in the community's job for input on that, and you're right, it may change. What we'll have to look at is we'll have to look at what kind of things have changed within the county since those maps were drawn. Where do we see our housing going? Where do we see our commercial going? You know, and maybe make those adjustments to certain areas as board and as the public see fit. And, you know, we hope for public input on those meetings to find out where do folks see or where do folks feel that more housing should be? Where should we put more commercial areas? Yeah, that's exactly what one of our jobs will be to do, is to kind of take a look at what we had, what's happened since, where can we go from there?
Well, and regardless, I mean, I guess the property at hand is in Palm Ave, so that's maybe neither here nor there, but, you know, just want to make that point that it was developed quite a while ago, so.
All right, thank you, Sheila. Okay, I'd like to open up for public comments since there's a lot of you here, and for Alice's benefit, please come to the podium and state your name. Making minutes for us is kind of a job if people just are hollering comments from the stands. So please come forward if you have comments, questions, state your name at the podium, and we can try to get some answers for you.
My name is Tracy Faith. I live just to the north of that truck stop warehouse that they're putting in there. I've been digging a lot of information here lately. I learned a lot about politics. There wasn't a map. Last time we had this meeting, somebody proposed a map that had warehousing like right in front of my house and all the way around it. It did not only did that 44 acres, it did north of that and then over to the east. And they kind of brushed that map under the.
Was it just?
Yeah, yes.
I think that was
I
a
think
traffic
that was
study.
the DOT traffic study.
But it said like some warehousing area.
I don't remember, but I think there was a map associated with the traffic study at the last meeting. I'm guessing that's what he's referring to. Because it did have, I think, an industrial.
Yeah, I never got one, but I seen it from somebody had one. Remember that? So that was actually right in front of my house, and I thought, well, now they're doing 44 acres here, but next month they're going to come in, they're going to move another one over there. So I'm just kind of curious on that map. I haven't seen that again, so I didn't know if they could just keep going around there or not. I don't know. That's a question I have to ask. Let's see, what are some of the I did some digging too, talked to some influential people, I talked to some of the supervisors and stuff. And what I picked up is they're going for a grant, it's called a RISE grant. It's what they're applying for. And it goes by what research I've looked up, it sounds like it's how many people you employ, how much income you give out for, you know, for getting, this is for the help on a roadway, change the interstate highway. I'm just curious if this project here is getting pushed forward because what I read on there, they don't have enough employees, they don't have enough going on for that truck stop to qualify for that grant. So I'm wondering, is this quick ploy to get this thing going so they get more employees, to get, so they qualify for that for the grant? Is what I'm curious of. Notes here. So I actually on the last meeting, I don't know a lot about how this works, but the way they did that art cut system, and the meeting kind of catches me off guard. I come there, we went to this meeting, we won, so I wasn't really digging it a lot. I went to the supervisor's meeting, and I really applaud you guys for taking the time and asking questions, but at the supervisor's meeting, that thing went so quick, it was so real. I was lost at the meeting. I didn't know if it even passed by the time the meeting was over. I was like, did it pass or not? I don't understand like an art cut system. What was the criteria? Do you have to go to the DOT and Ames or Des Moines and get qualified? Do you have to submit stuff? Or I just wonder how it passed so quick.
Is Jamie here? Can you go over here? He's not.
You know, I don't know if you guys have, but
I'm not an expert in that.
it just passed so quick. I've heard other people say they try to teach stuff like adding a sign or doing stuff on it, and it takes forever, they said. But they only bought this land the first year. They got that qualified, it changed and done. It was like, boy, I just, it caught me off guard. And so I've been checking with people to try to change it. Been hitting a lot of dead ends. I went to the Iowa toll station. I went to the DOT supervisors out there and our engineers out there. I talked to the DOT patrolman. I talked to the sheriffs. Everybody is nervous about this R-cut system. I called my representatives and talked to them. A lot of them, the representatives I actually talked to, they don't know about this warehouse. I don't know. All three of them, I talked to Jesse and Ann and Tim, and none of them even knew this was going on. I know we did say it was advertising the deal, but it's kind of funny that this project has to be millions of dollars. Nobody even knows what's going on. So I was really kind of shocked by that. They did take the time to talk to me about it. And got back at me and said, well, there ain't a lot we can do about it. It's already, the ARC system's already been approved. So when they did that study on that, did they do the study on the traffic going, a truck stop there? Because I never heard no numbers like how many trucks are going in this, how, we still haven't heard of what it's even about. I mean, it's a storage type deal. Is it just going to be a few trucks coming in and others? Is it going to be like all night long truck traffic? You know, anything about it. Is there a financial plan put in place? Or they got financing available? I mean, they're trying to zone this without, I didn't hear hardly any information of what's going on. We got a financial plan in place right here. We got somebody coming in. I don't need that. So it's very lack of information there. So, and another thing, like I told you, I went to talk to all these people. They tried to help me. They said, I can't help you. I can give you the information, but I can't tell you. You can't use it. My boss will not let me come forward and give my opinion like that. So I had to respect that. So I couldn't use them, you know. I did talk to Decker. I talked to Brad Beatty and Bill Decker. I went out and talked to them. They're concerned. Their trucking companies are real big on safety. They're real big on that. And they said that they would black flag this because they would not want their trucks coming in there and doing U-turns on either way. They said it's just too dangerous. They would just black flag it. And I tried to get Brad is busy and Dale. I tried to get a letter from them, but I just couldn't get it in time. And they were out of town. I just couldn't get it. But I did talk to Darwin Sturts, and I think he is here. He works for Kind. He runs the trucking company for Kind, and he'll probably step up there a little bit. He was concerned about this. It was one thing that we had trucks out there. Now we're going to be running trucks in and out of that thing all the time. It's just, I think it's going to be a mess. And I did do a petition on Facebook, and I know Facebook is, you know, I think it's for kids and stuff, but a lot of times that's fine, or access to get information. But if you could pass them on, but you can just read through. Some people have some different comments. Some people have some really good comments. So if you want to take the time to look at it, so I might come add some more stuff here.
Hi, my name is Cassie. I also did some digging and didn't come up with, I guess, some dead ends. So I'd like to share a couple of things. I got an article from the Columbus Telegram. It's dated back December 3rd of 2018. And it reads, the Nebraska Department of Transportation recently unveiled its plan to rework the US Highway 81 and Nebraska Highway 91 intersection just north of Humphrey. I pulled the most recent average daily traffic for this highway intersection. For Highway 81, the average daily traffic is 6,900. On the Highway 91 west leg is 3,200, and on the east leg is 1,600. Nebraska DOT roadway design engineer Mike Owen spoke to a crowd of about 70 people about the project on Thursday night at the Humphrey Community Center. Owen said the goal is to reduce the frequency and severity of crashes that have been known to occur at that crossing before the R-cut was in place. Owen was accompanied by assistant design engineer John Thomas and Tara Kramer, a senior traffic operations engineer with Omaha-based design from HDR. The presentation lasted about 30 minutes with audience members asking questions afterwards for nearly 2 hours. Many in attendance were concerned with R-cut in regards to semi-truck, and large farm equipment traffic, which sounds very relatable to what we're talking about tonight. Fast forward, this R-cut was passed, it was put in, they did a follow-up article dated September 27th of 2021, so 15 days ago they put this out. And it's titled, "It appears drivers have made a U-turn on the R-cut." And then it goes on to say, "It appears that attitudes have changed. When the Nebraska Department of Transportation proposed something called the R-cut intersection for Highway 81 and 91, many people thought it would not work. After it was built in 2020 and people have had the chance to drive through the R-cut, opinions have reversed. Following construction, Nebraska DOT was interested in not only understanding how the R-cut has performed through an engineering evaluation, but knowing the public was concerned prior to the construction, we felt it was important to get feedback from the user perspective. We reached out to the community via email and web outlets requesting input. Nebraska DOT received public surveys responses between July 23rd and August 24th of this year through both mailed and online surveys. Respondents were primarily passenger vehicle drivers who were familiar with the intersection before the R-cut was improved or implemented, sorry. Respondents use the intersection frequently, and most saying that they use it 2 to 5 times per week to daily during typical rush hour times from 9 a.m. to 5 to 7 p.m. Sarah Soley, Nebraska DOT External Affairs Manager, sent her emails. We are happy to report we have received considerable positive feedback. Based on the information we received, there is an increase in satisfaction from the community on the functionality of the intersection since the R-cut has been implemented. Respondents have seen an increased safety with the R-cut now in operation. 78.85% responded that it has increased / somewhat increased in safety. Based on received response, drivers' opinions evaluated from somewhat hesitant, 80%, and then after the construction, changing their opinion to being somewhat supportive to support. And another thing I wanted to touch on, and wanted to submit for the public notes. I got on the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration, so that's as high as you can go. They actually have a tab on there that's labeled proven safety countermeasures. And right there, there's 2 on there that are listed as the main safety prevention and go-to intersections, and the R-cut's listed. The R-cut is listed as a 54% reduction in injury and fatal crashes. And specifically listed as R-cut being suitable for a variety of circumstances, including along rural, high-speed, 4-lane divided highways for signalized routes. So that's all I have, I guess. I guess more of the story is, pretty close to home, Nebraska. They have the same instance where, a lot of people were concerned. They have the opportunity to drive it. I'm pretty confident it's probably not too many people that have the chance to drive it. So I'm not sure that they have, the experience, and they might end up liking it, and it might, increase their drive to work or whatever their commute is if this is an issue.
If you want to give it.
Yeah, you could. I'm gonna give you a copy of that.
Jeff, could you clarify, I understand that the last project with the commercial rezone went through with that DOT study for the car cuts, and that was approved by the board of supervisors. there's no proposed change to the road other than what was already presented at the last meeting, correct? Isn't, that's the design regardless of whether a warehouse or an industrial rezone is permitted or not, that's gonna be the road design, to my understanding. And can you just clarify whether this increased traffic that might occur if this is granted would already been incorporated in that first traffic study? Because if so, I don't know that we need to dig back into the traffic study issue.
So addressing, yes, this use is included in the traffic study.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. And in terms of, the first question again was the design.
Yeah, just that that's sort of already moved forward through Board of Supervisors approval, so we don't.
Yes,
what
and
it's
and that's the
already-
design that we have on the monitor right now, that's just gone through the Department of Transportation.
I just wanted to make sure that. the-
Again, this is throughout the country, not only Nebraska, where I did a lot of planning in Florida, and again, it's proven to be very safe. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna have accidents happen everywhere. but
On flat surfaces or on hills?
on
Sorry.
flat, North Florida, South Florida, throughout Florida. If you've been in Florida on vacation, you'll see all those U-turns along all those highways. Those are all our cuts.
Just a quick question on that though too. Those are used more for autos versus semi.
More so, yeah, I mean, even though the turning radiuses themselves will accommodate a semi truck, tractor and trailer, as you look at that southbound lane, just look at the far left-hand side of that monitor on the southbound lane, you're gonna see an acceleration lane there, that if a truck, tractor, trailer was, semi truck, tractor, trailer was heading westbound, and they went and did a U-turn there, they're gonna use that area there to turn around in, and accelerate in. It doesn't look like much there. That's their acceleration lane to go ahead and merge into that right turn lane. It's the right lane, so move.
Is that on the south side of the road
That's
there?
on the south side.
So they gotta go across 2 lanes of traffic. and all that.
Correct. Yes, they do. Yeah, correct.
What percent degree is that hill right there, do you know?
Pardon me?
The degree percent of that hill that you'd be headed back
I
eastbound?
don't have that information.
And that.
The design has taken all that into consideration. I mean, this is done
think
through.
They've really taken into consideration the elevation change of somebody coming out of there and then going eastbound with a fully loaded semi trailer. Because
Your point's well taken, and I would
that's
think,
the safety.
yeah, and it's a valid concern. I would think that they would have to take that into consideration. They're looking at all the grades and the topography there.
But that's
this-
where I guess my
yeah.
main concern is with them, that is, yes, it probably works a lot for autos. But I think a majority of this, especially if you get a warehouse and distribution center, and that it is gonna be much more on semis, because you've got that, plus you've got a travel center. You're gonna have more semis, utilizing that, you're gonna have cars.
But you gotta look at the traffic volume on there, it's relatively low.
No.
Yes, it is. In comparison to your average interstate, it is relatively low, and you're gonna see gaps that they're gonna be able to make this,
Excuse me.
to make that turn, correct?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Folks, we really need to make sure that we keep our public comments at the podium, because I know everyone has important things to say, and we do want to hear all the things that you have to say. But please, if you can wait to come to the podium, please state your name, because we want to be able to get all this stuff down on record, and we don't want to be interrupting other folks as they're talking. So I'm sorry to have to.
Oh, that's
have to interrupt you.
But it's taken into account the volume right now, and some projected volume. But you're right, down the road, that turn movement may not work if the traffic increases substantially. But right now, I would think the experts would agree that the volume's not out there. You know, it isn't adequate safe turn movement at the time based on what volume's there right now. Could it be a problem in the future? Without a doubt, if the trips increase.
You know, and I think that that's the point, and I know Darren said that, you know, that's kind of not something we need to really spend a lot of time with. But I think back when the other rezone went through, people were seeing that on the DOT study and thinking, well, this is far off in the future, and maybe some of the members of the public are thinking, well, we don't have to worry about that. Well, here we are a month later, and we are talking about that. We are talking about, like Brenna says, that increased truck traffic happening probably, you know, sooner than we think. So maybe some of the folks in the public that did have that as a concern, but maybe didn't voice it last time, I think they are, you know, valid in voicing it this
Oh,
time.
without a doubt, they're valid. I mean, the DOT will take a look at that. They do trip counts every year, and they'll analyze that, and they'll look at their their accident reports, and if they find the fact that something's not working there, they're gonna do the best interest of the public. They're gonna, make some adjustments, maybe a closure or whatever it may be, so. Yeah.
I know,
Sir,
maybe people move your
Can you
way.
stand up, please?
Will that come out of the?
And your name
taxpayers?
is?
Justin Patterson.
Justin
So
Patterson.
when they make improvements to make this work, then we're paying for that tax dollars. Not Stump, but us. Right?
The improvements you see
So
on
if
the
the
overhead,
DOT said this is
yeah,
not work anymore,
the
who
improvements,
pays for the improvement?
the improvements that you see on the overhead right now.
No.
Stump is responsible for
Okay,
paying.
that's not what I'm asking.
But in the
You
future,
answered my question, yes.
Yeah.
So in the future, when they say, well, this isn't accommodating the amount of traffic coming through, the DOT steps in and changes it, we pay for that change. It's not Stump.
it's a state road, it's a state road, it's a state road, yeah. It's not a county, it's a state road. So all state taxpayers, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll pay for it eventually, either way.
Hey, my name is Brad, and
Sorry,
I
what's
just,
your name?
Brad Lemke,
Brad.
yes ma'am, I got loud enough, I don't need to go to the podium, but I do want to clarify what you said. As I understand it, the improvements that Stump is responsible for is on Poplar Avenue, not the 20 turns, is that correct? Oh,
Yeah, both.
okay, and future improvements are gonna be the responsibility of the DOT to benefit an individual business that is causing the increase in traffic in this area, am I correct in that?
What you see right now, the improvements that are in the US 20 corridor are Stump's responsibility, and what's gonna be done, the paving of Poplar Avenue and any necessary turn lanes, that's gonna be Stump's responsibility. As development comes in, traffic report is required. They analyze any future improvements that are needed, and whoever's processing that application, whether it's a new business or Mr. Stump himself, they're gonna be on the hook for those improvements, unless there's grant monies out there, or the county decides to take it funds,
Okay.
or whatever, so.
Well, one more question here for the group. So why is this necessary, folks? I mean, we've got vacant lots right here already zoned industrial in Fort Dodge, right? It's good enough for Don Decker. Why isn't it good enough for Kevin Stump? Really? I mean, the jobs? Does Webster County really have that much need for jobs? We got jobs we can't fill right now, folks. I mean, the board of supervisors' job is to do what? Protect and uphold the laws that are already on the books, right? You heard it yourselves. This is most likely an illegal zoning, then it would not stand up in a court of law. This does go through, there will be a legal challenge. I'll commit to that.
Right there with.
Amen.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay, so I'd like to hand these out and kind of put to bed this whole safety concern issue that keeps coming up. I'm sorry, I only have 5 of these.
Just
So-
one's out, some get one.
Yeah. So if you guys can share, sorry. Okay, so that is from the Federal Highway Administration. It's the restricted crossing U-turn intersection informational guide. And I just want to refer to, on page 51, I just took an excerpt from it so that I could address the safety issue. On page 51, which will be your first page that you turn to, at the very bottom, I've highlighted the area that says at a four-leg intersection, a R-cut has 14 conflict points compared to 32 at a conventional intersection. In addition to reducing total conflict points, R-cut intersections reduce crossing conflict points. Crossing maneuvers can result in angle crashes and crash type that is generally more severe than other types. So if you look at the next page, there's a diagram of those conflict points. So the top one is a typical four-leg intersection with 32 conflict points, and the bottom one is an R cut with only 14. So you can see where, throughout this R cut, there's a lot less opportunity for crashes. And I just wanted to kind of let you guys see that in, black and white to illustrate that. And then the next part that I have there is, it's a kind of a summary of what that whole paper said, Federal Highway Administration paper. And If you turn to page 3 in safety performance, arc-cut intersections have 18 conflict points compared to 32 at conventional intersections. The arc-cut intersection appears to offer substantial safety advantages over conventional intersections. For example, arc-cut intersections on US Route 2374 Porter in North Carolina, there was a 17% decrease in total crashes, a 31% decrease in total crash rate, and a 41% decrease in fatal injury crashes, and a 51% decrease in fatal injury crash rate. So, I mean, all of the data shows that it's a much safer alternative. I also looked up a study that was conducted specifically on trucks and trucking. And so in conjunction with ARCA, and they analyzed 19 years of crash data for 6 intersections located along US 15 and 12 years of crash data for 3 intersections along US 301 in Maryland. And there was a 62% decrease in crashes after the ARCA was installed. They also found an overall reduction in crash severity. There was a 70% drop in fatal crashes and a 42% reduction in injury crashes between 3-year periods of installing RCIs. So, I mean, in short, this is used everywhere in the nation. There are 17 currently in Minnesota alone. I found all of the states where they are currently in Louisiana, Alabama, Texas, Michigan, Ohio, Florida, Virginia, Maryland, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, and Wisconsin. They were implemented in the 1990s and early 2000s. There in 2014 there were 51, and that number has grown. So if it wasn't safe, they wouldn't keep doing them all over the nation. So I think we should just, you know, put that to bed and just stop talking about it. It really doesn't pertain to this anyway, because this is a completely separate situation. The traffic impact study was conducted for 20 years out. So considering an increase in traffic over that time, so it's really pretty much irrelevant, honestly, to the discussion.
If I can make a comment right quick. Our last meeting, we had an official DOT person here, and he's the one that needs to answer these questions. We can't. We just can't, we don't have facts. We have opinions, you know,
Yeah.
I live out in that area and the downhill, yeah, and I just normally ask the DOT guy, says, you feel this is safe? And he said, I can't, live with it. You know, he said, and a lot of those questions need to go to him. No,
Yeah, but a reasonable person. First off, I want to commend the Stump family for wanting to do an improvement like this and to develop land.
Okay.
Kyle Olson.
Thank you,
I
Kyle.
don't live over that way, but I do. I think it's great. I think we definitely need something like that. A nice truck stop on 20 distribution center. That'd be great. I mean, it's tax dollars, that sort of thing. But I honestly feel like this is a horrible location. And anybody can argue with me about this R design, but you can't tell me a fully loaded semi pulling out of there, going across traffic, the westbound lane, trying to come back eastbound, going up that hill, foggy morning, you're gonna have traffic deaths. I guarantee it. Especially in the winter time. It's just it's a horrible layout. I can't imagine that any other R whatever design is on the hillside. And, oh, just sorry. And then as far as the traffic study goes, on your future, I'm guessing the way your distribution center is designed, it looks like a future development. So more trucks, more traffic. That was probably
It was.
It was?
It was.
Okay. Yeah, just a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Kyle.
David Mitchell. Calhoun County is, they have opened a business park also. You seen that? It was open June 6th. They said, they did a traffic study, 5,820 vehicles in a 24-hour period, but most of the traffic occurred between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. What is do you know the number for here, for Webster County? I never saw it. What is that number?
It's right around 10,000 trips.
10,000
At this point.
at a 20, so that's about 16 cars a minute, or 16 vehicles a minute, 24 hours a day, right? So, it's 8 over there, but so 10,000 is quite a lot of traffic. First of all, I gotta backtrack a little bit. Our friend was Elwood Joris, who owned the land, and him and his wife Sula, and we're here just, it's okay that, we're wonderful the daughter sold the property, but when we first heard that this was being sold, and then all of a sudden it's gonna be, wow, we're gonna build a new town, or what are we gonna do here? It was kind of like, it's a terrible location. And any of you driven down that road, in the middle of winter, when it's 20 below and the wind's blowing about 40 miles an hour, visibility is this. So you're gonna, if there's no stop signs, no lights, no nothing, it will have lost a life there. And I may go out on a limb and say, this is a great idea. I agree with so many people here that for doing a U-turn on that hillside is terrible. So anyway, it's my own opinion. I think it's wrong. As for the what Jeff said, I agree with him when he said that the county's job, or all of our job, is the health, safety, and general welfare of our citizens. But one of them is not to build a U-turn on a highway. That's a bad deal. From this day forward, do you think that now that brown zone on that map, can anybody just go start a business or rezone something? Is that going to be commonplace in the future? Or they want to opportunize or capitalize on this location. Can anybody do that now, or is that brown zone that was on that map, is that a new limit? You guys, I didn't understand that fully.
Anyone has the right to process any type of petition, whether it be a land use change or a zoning change. It's reviewed under its own merits. There's criteria in the zoning ordinance that are reviewed by staff with the recommendation of the supervisor. Decision by the board of supervisors. So if they meet that criteria and moves forth. Obviously, we have land use and zoning, which is always, in my opinion, movable and can be changed, but that things can't be changed around here, but things can be changed, so.
So anyway, I do agree with the gentleman, Brad, that spoke about jobs in Webster County. There are a lot of companies that are looking for a lot of people right now. And I do want to thank the Planning and Zoning Committee for your vote last time. It wasn't, many people were unaware of what was transpiring with this whole travel center / truck stop. So it was like, we missed it, or there was a lot of people that could have had their say that was just missed. Anyway, thank you for voting 5-2 or 4-3, whichever it was, against it. I think that you used really good common sense. And for the record of the 3 county supervisors that had the intestinal fortitude to vote on that, I just disagree with how they voted without really looking into this closely. So, but thank you.
Thank you.
Ken Stewart. I agree with Tracy 100%. I think we need some better detailed map to see what we're trying to do here. I've been in the construction business 30 years plus, and paved roads all over the state of Iowa, and I've never seen a design like this, and I don't think it's practical for where it's going in there. I just don't see it happen like it's supposed to with the hill there, and we have traffic. You can't even get out on a car sometimes. And I don't see it, it's gonna work, I'm happy to get, things getting better in the future, but I don't see this happening the way it's supposed to. Also, I think we need a wheelchair ramp down the door. About my mother with me, she's in a wheelchair, she doesn't get in very good. And, I guess that's my 2 cents. I'm gonna take her back on, thank you for letting me put in my 2 cents.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for coming and thank you for bringing thoughts.
Yeah, I'm Lori Evans, 2594 235th Street. This is a little bit different than truck traffic. This is water traffic. I got the only ravine there that takes water on that whole area. And I'm wondering what they're gonna do when they wash my garage out. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Jeff, do you have any comments to that?
So if this moves forward and gets approved by the supervisors, the proposed building, all its impervious improvements, the parking, et cetera, they'll be required to submit a full set of civil engineering plans, which will address stormwater and how the water is captured and treated on site. By state law, all water has to be captured and treated on site. Yeah, there's gonna be more impervious area. And if water does happen to flow south for some reason in the public right of ways, all that's gonna have to be reviewed. So there's stormwater management plan, making sure that all the state, local laws are complied with and they're not flooding out. Not to say there might be an event out there, there happens to be events quite often, where we get substantial amounts of rain. But, that all has to be looked at. It's a valid concern. There's no doubt about it.
I read the studies that they were giving you about the ARC system, and I got thinking about that. They kept saying it's 60–70% better, less fatalities, less deaths. And it did say sometimes it didn't work in other areas. But the majority of the research I did on, they were at intersections that were having problems. They were better, 60% better than what was there before. It's not that they put a new one in. Like this is a new one. We're not having any problem there all right now. This is a new system we're putting in. So we're still going to have some accidents and death because in the reports it even said it made it better. It was 60% better. It didn't say 100% better. It said 60% better. Kind of say where I'm going there. And another thing, I have a tough time with the volume. I know they have to have, they know what the volume is on that because they're building trucks up there. They're going to know what the volume of people is. I think our last meeting, if I recall, they said 6,000 to 7,000 people go by there. Jeff tonight just said 10. I listened to Jeff on the radio on the Mike Devine show, and he said 12 then. He said 10 tonight. He said 7 the time before. There's just no standard. We keep changing this number. And when we were here at the truck stop, they said they're going to have 35 to 45 employees. Jeff, on his interview on the radio, he says there's only going to be 20. So now we're short 20 workers from what they told us the last week. And then another statement I caught, what he said on the radio was very interesting. That intersection from Cobalt Blacktop past here, most busiest spot in Webster County. That's you get the most traffic in that area, right there. Now, I thought that was very interesting. Nobody brought that up, but he made that comment on the radio. So let's fly on the radio or not. But I'm very interested in hearing that comment. I'm just kind of.
Hi, my name is Dante. We travel that road every day for the ones that live on top of the turning out there, so some days I can.
I'm sorry, I can't hear very well.
Some days I can turn, you might wait for 2 cars, some days 10 cars. A week ago, well, it was on a Sunday, so a week from Sunday. Rated about 5 cars from by, and I'm like, geez, there's so many cars, so I started counting, 31 cars before I could watch. Now, that's me with a little vehicle, think about semi, they're gonna get tired of it, they're gonna finally pull out, and then quickly have to make it over 2 lanes, make a U-turn, and then you've got traffic that are emerging from the exit. And, you know, so they're all in the passing lane, because people are coming in, and then they're trying to merge over to that. And I have to try to get over to church lane and turn on Hopper, or anybody else that wants to go to the truck stop. So it's just gonna be a mess, I think, and especially in the winter, there's 1 lane traffic. When there's a snowstorm, it is 1 lane. Now, how is the person gonna get over and U-turn and then get back over, you know? And it's not at the bottom of this hill, we finally figured out, it's halfway in the middle of this hill. So you don't even get a chance to come to the bottom, you're halfway down and then you have to stop, make a turn. So I think that's actually dangerous too. Yeah.
I'm gonna just add to that quick. My name is Gavin Faith, I'm Tracy and Donna's son. Just adding to the safeties, I know I'll make it quick, we went over it, beat it to death, but with the warehouse and stuff, before the warehouse, the truck stop, you could not stop there if you want to get a truck. Correct, like you said, Decker would send their guys right past it. It being a warehouse, they don't have a choice but to stop there. Pull out front traffic. And one thing that I forgot to mention is this down in the valley, this turnaround, you'll have mornings where it's not foggy at all, no fog. You drop down that hill and the whole thing is just white. So that's right where the trucks will be crossing over 2 lanes. And Interstate 20 does not have that wide a median. So by the time you have a turn lane into the center, and you have to cross over 2 more lanes, if you could merge in from the passing lane, that would make more sense, but the road's not wide enough to do that. So you have to cross over 2 lanes of traffic going 70 miles per hour, let alone a loaded semi traveling up that hill. By the time it gets to the top, will it hit 20 miles per hour? A loaded semi, you can't shift going up that steep a hill. You got 70 mile per hour traffic, 65, I mean, most people travel 70, 75, coming up on 15 to 20 mile per hour loaded semi trying to go up the hill. You know, there's a couple of things where this arc cut might be safer than a normal intersection. I'm not saying it's safer. If you have that truck stop there and have a normal intersection, of course it's safer. But you're creating the problem by adding this stuff there. And I mean, I just see that there's plenty of other areas that exits that can make it a lot safer for not only us that live out there, but you have people traveling to college. I mean, think of an 18-year-old daughter going to college or whatever, you know. Everybody travels that road to go to Des Moines or where else, but yeah, that's just a couple things I thought I would add. Thanks.
I'm Sharon Mitchell. I was just concerned that I follow along with the U-turn later. It says subject to review by DOT on the paper. Slide. But it's subject to review later when they make changes. I worry that they're gonna say, oh, that U-turn isn't safe, to now just send them over to Colville and have them get on the ramp. And it feels like all other truck stops are at ramp sites and interchanges that are safe. And I don't know if people, I don't know who is behind your, is it quick? I mean, we've never heard what the name of this is or who's backing. What is it? No, whatever you, who's gonna be building it, is it Quick Start, is it Casey? So you guys are gonna work there. It's National Farm Day. I thought you guys are farmers. So you're gonna start being run a truck stop and travel center. Okay. But so will the DOT later review that U-turn might not be safe and take it out of there? Or is it automatically put in?
They review the process from the beginning all the way through construction to the end.
And if
When
they're,
they have to accept the road and everything else.
so what if, when they accept that, it isn't good, what are they gonna do? if they say, oh, this U-turn isn't working, like all these things people have brought, then are they gonna say, we'll just send you back to Colville? If you wanna go east?
That's something.
But that,
I mean, things change, you're right, things happen and things do change over time, so, you know.
I would think that would be a big part of the plan ahead of time, and
They're gonna have to plan it and make sure that what they're putting out there is gonna accommodate not only now, but like Sheila said, 20 years from now. But knowing the fact that things do change, you're right, and, you know, safety concerns do come up, and maybe they have to eliminate some of these cuts based on accident data, et cetera, that comes up.
but when are they built? I mean, it's
Yeah,
start.
Start next week.
And then if they come along and say, oh, that U-turn, people are going to, can't get up the hill. I just think it's such a better location, and safety, I think, is everybody's main concern. And I've been crossing the highway this weekend. I've waited a long time. The traffic count is very high. When did they do your traffic study?
Traffic study was, yeah, that was.
What day of the week was it done?
It was midweek, that's when they do it.
It was Wednesday,
Oh, Wednesday.
about 3:30, I got home from work.
Yeah, traffic changes different times of day, so it's.
And during the weekdays, that's where your highest volumes are.
No, it's not.
But you know, Sharon, she makes a good point though, Jeff, the fact that the time period that they did the traffic study, that was one of my concerns too.
It's a lower number.
It wasn't during harvest season or, you know, I mean, it was on.
Right.
So, because we had our meeting and then we asked for the traffic study and then, that's when I did it. So I mean,
Those are the minimum strips though.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
they
then-
really are. I mean,
well, when you start hauling grain and you have a bunch of semis hauling grain, it's the same issue down in Gallery when the dollar store did the traffic count. Well, they were counting semi trucks going forward. You know, they weren't counting regular traffic. That's what they were counting at the time period of the year that this traffic study was done. We didn't have that influx of semis.
I don't think you're gonna see a big difference in the number of trips. It's gonna be different this weekday or weekend, based on this trip volume that's along here, which is in the 10 to 12,000 trip range, which is relatively, some people think it's high, but I'm used to 30 to 50,000 trips on a Florida highway. And this is a relatively low,
Where?
down in Florida, South Florida. Yeah, I mean,
All right.
Broward County, Long Beach County, I've done extensive planning, but yeah, I mean, there's ample. Yeah,
It's obviously a public concern.
Yeah, it's, oh yeah, they're all legitimate concerns, yeah.
And then my other question was, who is staff? When you have up there, you say staff decides.
Planning and zoning, that's.
This group decided that?
That's county engineer, that's myself, I collaborate with the county engineer, public health, and other disciplines. throughout the county. And I formulate the decision after the review. Whether it complies or does not comply with the comprehensive plan and our zoning ordinance.
You're here for all the county, right? You're here, it sounds like you've spent an excessive amount of time on this project. Is that normal? Is that during your workday? That you're doing for the Stump Travel Center? Is that normal?
It's a petition. In a typical year in Florida, I process maybe 200 of these petitions. In this county, we process 3 to 5. So this is, for me, it's a minimum.
Sharon, could I ask a question?
Yes.
Didn't the planning and zoning commission vote to deny the request to approve the first truck stop?
Yeah, I wasn't
And it
at
was
the
the board
meeting.
of supervisors that approved, I believe the planning and zoning commission, that you direct voted to deny.
Right.
But it got approved anyway.
The board of supervisors unanimously approved.
3-0.
5-0.
It said in the.
Oh, 3-0.
3-0.
2 were absent.
First meeting was 5-0.
5-0.
Second meeting was, the third reading was 3-0.
3-0.
The concern that I have is that I attended the Farm Bureau banquet, and Myra was there, Cranberry, a lot of us were there. I asked Keith Club personally, how is the progress on the travel center, what have you decided? He said to me, and I know some other people heard his comments, he said, we are waiting until the recommendation of planning and zoning. So why is your board here if the county supervisors did not listen? Do you guys get paid to be here? Are you volunteer? How do you feel when you vote and it's ignored.
That's a good question, Chad.
Thank
It's,
I just
you
wanted to.
know, we are appointed by the board of supervisors. There is the division, and I think, and I don't remember the actual legislation that happened 2 years ago. We have, if you have a comprehensive plan, you have to have a planning and zoning commission that helps take care of and maintain that comprehensive plan. That's supposed to take the political aspect out of it. We get paid by the meeting, not that much, but we are appointed by the board of supervisors to be on the board. Some of us, you know, fill out an application to be on the board, some of us were asked to be on the board. That's, I guess, why we're here. But, you know, the state they passed some legislation to take some power away from board of supervisors, so they could make changes to the comprehensive plan without having public meetings. At the same time, they made changes to our board membership to make sure that the members of this board were representative of the county. We had 2 board members at the time that were living within city limits, and they had to, you know, excuse themselves from the board. So yeah, I mean, we hope to work in conjunction. But my personal view is to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the public. You know, to do the right thing for the comprehensive plan, to do the right thing, not necessarily for right now today, but to make sure we're doing it for 20 years from now, to make sure we're doing the right thing long after I'm gone. And that's just my personal view. But yeah, it's a good question.
But reading the articles in the Messenger, you sound very professional. You had the articles quoted, and I was just shocked when the supervisors voted about the subway against the wishes of your group. So thank you. I hope you'll consider the public, because a lot of people talk but aren't attending. I mean, there's a large number of people who are very concerned about the location, not the travel plaza, not having something, but why not at one of the exchanges where there are ramps? Thank you.
Okay, folks. Anyone else from the public would like to make any more public comments before we close our public comment section and then our board will fix the discussion?
I'd like to make one more quick comment, maybe a couple. First of all, it's a little bit beyond me why it is that we're planning to build in the area that we are and bypassing Fort Dodge. I mean, truck stop is gonna do nothing but encourage folks to bypass Fort Dodge. That doesn't bring the economic benefit to the folks in Fort Dodge, particularly if say a hotel were to be built there or something like that, when we venture in Fort Dodge. My second point is a little bit more, so my family has lived in the area since what, 1900s, late 1800s. Guys, it's one of the most beautiful areas in Iowa. Why do we want to build industrial complexes in that type of area? What are our children going to think of us when they have no more open spots at all to see? All we've got is warehouse buildings, truck stops that peddle more junk food, more crap that we don't need, more conveniences. I mean, guys, this is a finite resource, right? When it's gone, it's gone. I'm sorry, you know, I'm very invested in the community out there as well as many of my neighbors here, and I don't want to see it screwed up by this type of development. It's not necessary. That's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you.
This truck stop cost me thousands of dollars. So the fact that I gotta build a playground on the backside of my property, and build a ravine, fence it off, so someone don't steal my kid out there outside playing, and there's countless numbers of trucks driving by the road, sitting 23 acres away from my house. Where's the safety in that? They're gonna have security guards out there, make sure trucks aren't sitting there running, they're not driving up and down the road, vandalizing stuff, stealing stuff. People get left there. What do? They wander to our houses. Damage everything we have, rob us, kill us, who knows?
Didn't we just shut down a truck terminal kind of in our area?
Think.
Non-green, something to that effect, for those exact reasons.
I'm not 100% sure, but I just have a little girl. You guys, you know, they grow fast,
I know.
but you're not living next to this, right? You can more likely buy, you can gladly buy my house, but your kid out there playing around. I mean.
We're putting up reception walls.
We're excited. Restaurant and campground and
Cool. Not me. I want my kid to live in the country. That's why I moved out there. Well, not very much longer, it sounds like, but that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Okay, folks. I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment section of this meeting. And now, board members, comments, questions for anyone? We can have our discussion.
I have a question for Darren. So on the, you said it would possibly be illegal to do the industrial there.
Yes, I believe that the industrial plan lacks the community benefit element that the commercial gas station, in essence, convenience store, right on point, granted. There's a string of cases that say you can have spot zone in situations where there's a direct community benefit. That is a legal justification where the courts won't overrule the motivation of board supervisors, rational basis of board supervisors to take a specific action. Say, you know, if it provides this benefit, that's one instance where you can spot zone. There's cases to that effect. But it's the cases I've come across that cause me most problem in regard to applying this specific, were the cases that say the spot zoning for the benefit only of the owner, in essence. You know, there's financial benefit to be there, and not to the general public, which I think it's a stretch from the county's position to try to argue. There's always going to be tax benefit of potential employment, but providing some sort of a service to the public. I think having an industrial warehouse, that's where I differentiate two products, because I can justify that. I think there's a direct community benefit from the gas station project. You know, I would, you know, and we argued over whether the location was right or not. And a lot of people said we think this would be a great community benefit. We just don't like the spot. A lot of people on this board voted against it. And that's where I distinguish it in my analysis.
Now my question after that answer, maybe it's for Jeff, or maybe for some people on the board to understand a little bit better. From what I was looking at, when you have a commercial or a few other zonings like that, doesn't it make it easier to zone it industrial since you have commercial right there? From what I kind of read it
Well, I'm getting
appears
back,
to me
yeah,
that it seems like,
I'm getting back, spot zoning occurs when a change in zoning is at odds with the comprehensive plan. This is not at odds. This is in the clump, which allows an allowable industrial feature lands. So, you have the public benefit argument. I'm not here to argue with Darren. I have the utmost respect for him. But this is a valid point from a planning perspective. If we weren't in the clump here, I think 100%, if there was not a public benefit, that this is spot zone. But we're in the clump.
And I'll stipulate, that's what I said earlier. There's a difference of opinion here as to if it's in the clump, that means it's in the comprehensive plan moving forward. I think the clump is more of a future down the road.
So here, you gotta remember, 2008, this was adopted, we're in the future.
For future comprehensive plans, I guess.
All right, I'm not here to argue with you.
I respect you too, Jeff. Yeah, I think why I say, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't think I'm wrong, based on my review of case law. But that's the difference between us, is you think it's in the clump, it's part of the comprehensive plan. I'm thinking that doesn't check the box in the comprehensive plan, and we still thought, so that's the difference of opinion.
It's an opinion, yep,
Exactly, that's fair.
yeah, that's fair.
Is that for you?
Just one more question, sorry. So how many cases did you find that supported this at your opinion, I
I
guess?
didn't find anything that supported the project.
No, I mean, that supported your opinion of this being possibly illegal zoning spot zoning.
There's two primary cases, because once the case law is out there, oftentimes you don't have future cases when people learn what you can and can't do without getting in trouble. But there's two primary Iowa Supreme Court cases. I read probably 50 cases on the topic. Not all for this project. A lot of it I did, and it's applicable to the last project as well. And the same cases were what I relied on in justifying my opinion of the last case, these same two cases. And these two cases are the ones that I think that it's illegal for this portion of your project. That's my opinion.
Right, and so in your opinion, but it is arguable
It is, well, Jeff and I are arguing, so.
Yeah.
It's
I'm just saying, I want to make sure that.
I'm just saying, my position is to advise these boards where I see potential liability, and I see potential litigation, and I see that here, and so I'm letting that.
I understand that, but I want to make sure the commission knows that it is arguable. I mean, and
Jeff
public,
and I, if Jeff's position here today at court, then it would pass most. I just, based on my review, I don't think it will.
And it's kind of based on what, like, a benefit to the public is, and that sort of definition,
That's the
basically.
difference in my opinion between the two, is I think there's a much stronger argument for the convenience store, whatever you want to call it, that, you know, so you don't, when you're driving from Webster City to Rockville City, you don't have to get up off the point.
Right, and I understand.
Obvious benefit there. I don't see that to the general member of society. So despite the tax benefit, despite the point.
I understand that, and I can see your point, but that's kind of an aside, because that's already like done.
The other one is, I was just trying to
Yeah.
differentiate why my opinion differs on.
Right, so, and I can see that this is maybe lesser of a public benefit, but it's still public benefit. So it's more arguable, like, what degree of public benefit is
And I don't.
necessary to
based-
reach that threshold.
I don't think based on my review of those cases, that I think the public benefit in some of those cases may be stronger than the tax-based argument, but we can argue about that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a shooting range, it doesn't really, I don't really see like a lot of public benefit to that,
I think
based,
it might Russian Creek having a thing like that, and maybe that's.
but it wasn't like public lands, it was for a gun club. So, I mean, I can see where this would have, I mean, people like to get their things quickly. And so warehousing, I mean, gives us all the ability to do that. I mean, it's like we want to order something and have it in 2 days. So if we don't have warehouses, we can't do that. You know, it's, and then again, the jobs and the taxes. So I just wanted to like reiterate that and make sure that, you know. is
While you're
taken
there, I
care
have a couple questions for you. Do you already have somebody confirmed to come into this space, just contracted, so you're just building this with the future hope that somebody's gonna come in and fill the space?
We'd like to market, we'd like to market this.
Will you retain the property, will you be selling the property?
We
These
just
are
like to
all
market it, we don't know.
possibilities. So you'll just potentially market it as a space that you're gonna build,
Potentially.
or you just maybe want to
I don't
tell
have
them you're
answers
gonna
for
sell
that.
space that's.
I don't have answers for that. I mean, it's just our property, we'd like the opportunity to market it as like industrial.
Another question, because it was brought up, the RISE grant was brought up, is that something that has been applied for, or
No, we can't be the applicant on that.
Jackson County has to be.
county's applicant, is that something that the county has applied for?
No, on my advice, we could not apply for it because the area was not zoned industrial.
Okay.
And unless it's zoned.
Because I think the cutoff was, I don't remember.
Yeah, but before that opportunity, my advice was we should not, without a zoning change, apply for public monies.
Okay.
They could then be forwarded to pay for the road. Also arguably, that's contrary to what the representation for prior meetings about personal funds rather than public funds being used. The primary issue was the zoning designation. It's gonna have to be industrial, to get that, we should get the card from the court. So we have to go through this process, and then the county will consider applying for that.
Okay, thank you, I just want some clarification on that.
With the RISE grant, is that based on dollars or it's employment?
And that's Jamie Joel, our county engineers area. As to exactly what the criteria are that I can't speak to. Maybe Jeff knows.
I don't know, the applicant wants to address that with the criteria is for rights grant.
I believe it's based on jobs creation.
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
So initially, it was the applicants going to pay for improvements, and now it's the taxpayer. If this gets rezoned and they apply for
Correct me
the
if I'm
RISE
wrong,
grant,
the
I just want to make
Yeah,
sure.
no, yeah, that's a valid question. The applicant's paying for the improvements. They're applying for a grant to help them with those improvements.
We're not playing.
Somebody else is applying on their behalf to help. pay for this.
Because at the initial meeting, that's not what was said, so I just want to make sure.
Well, I mean, there are funds out there, so it would be kind of silly not to utilize those if we're able to.
I know, but the representation, like
We
Mr. Driscoll said, was that,
misrepresented what we're doing. We will pay for it if we, you know, if
Yeah.
we're not able to apply for this. grant
and that's, you know, I received, I don't see Mr. Pearson in the audience, There's a little flag from him that, you know, here's this, person and he's gonna put all of his own money out, da, 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 da. Well, is he really? You know,
Yeah,
now
we
we're
really
talking
are.
about rice grants, and so that's all of our money going towards this as opposed to going towards something else that could be theirs. So, Dan, did you have, were all your questions were answered then? I know kind of.
Not really. I guess what I'm wondering is, I mean, you've got mineral extraction, you've got commercial, you've got all this stuff on the east side of Fort Dodge here that's, you know, going up. And if you have commercial, would it make it, from what I was looking at in our booklet, does it make it easier to apply to do an industrial or something else next to something if you have a commercial?
I don't know if it's easier, everything's reviewed under its own merits and the criteria, but you do have a more intense zoning district adjacent to it.
That's what I
So
was
that-
wondering.
That does help its argument. So,
I have a couple of questions. for
That's a good
Somebody else has some. Okay, the clump map. Can I supposed to? Yeah. A lot of questions come around the clump map. And that stands for County Land Use Management Plan map. That is part of the comprehensive plan. And in my opinion, it is the long-range plan, okay? It is a map that was drawn in broad strokes as they are throughout the county around all the small communities. And we've had discussions about this on the board. When J.O. and Associates put the comprehensive plan together, a lot of those kinds of things, the maps were drawn around an area, not specifically by what the land was and who owned it or anything like that, or how we felt the uses should be. They were broad stroke maps. And when you look at that, something like the clump map, you can see that. If you can go to planning and zoning. This is Ellison Summit County's website. Hard to mouse and very decide to maneuver over here. Here, be right back.
Yeah,
Here, okay.
It's easier from here. Where do you want me to go?
I want you to go on the county's website, right, planning and zoning, I want you to go to the bottom of planning and zoning. And right down there, under, where our maps are, under documents. We have a comprehensive plan, we have zoning maps, and we have the future land use map. Okay, those are the three things that we have on our county's website. So that when businesses or whoever are looking at our county, this is the information that we have out there that they can look at prior to contacting Jeff or whoever. So we have a comprehensive plan, we have our zoning maps and the future land use map, if you would pull the future land use map, please. The future land use map throughout this process is the map that I feel has been disregarded. This map shows what areas were zoned for growth and development. And I think, you know, everybody keeps making the argument about using the clump map. I have problems using the clump map and bypassing the future land use map as a member of the commission, whether the board of supervisors agree with me or not, whatever. I go first to future land use map. And I see where we have our areas for commercial in the county, in that area. And as a planner, that's the place I want to go to first. I don't go to this map first, okay? I understand what Jeff says, that these things are allowed. But what I have to look at is if we start putting industrial and commercial, we already are having commercial out there. So we start putting industrial out there. As a board, what do we do with that area then? How do we look at that area? Do we see it as urban residential? Do we see it as commercial? Or do we see it as industrial? How do we look at it? And I guess that's one of the problems I have with it. The second problem I have with using the clump map instead, I don't know if you can pull back from the clump map or not. It is, yeah. It might be hard to find. The other problem I have, and the reason I want to bring this up is that somebody, after the last meeting asked me this, because I had made a comment about it setting a precedent for use. And I think gentleman asked that very question about setting a precedent. I'm gonna wait, see if she, there we go, okay. Is that all right, Christian? Yeah. Okay, so this is my concern as a planner, is that if you look at the brown area of the clump map, and you see that the applicant's property and what's going to be rezoned is over here. We're gonna have a J-turn intersection over here. If you go further to the west on 4 lane 20, there are other intersections, and I know there is a couple that has a warehouse or something north of 4 lane 20. That opens the door for them to come and say the same thing. Will the DOT come? Well, we have 2 J-turn intersections within a couple miles of each other. And when you look at all the other areas in the brown, is that also going to be the precedent that we set by going right to the clump plan versus using the future land use plan? And like I said, these are just my concerns as a planner, some of the things that I have to look at. Frankly, if that, if those folks came to us and said, well, you did it for these folks, you got to do it for me too. And then you're really talking a safety issue. And a lot of what everybody has said here tonight is a safety issue. I mean, for warehouse, fine, that's fine, but it's a safety issue. And that's why on the other map, that's why all that commercial zone area is right near the major intersection. That's why as planners, that's why we do that. And I have to agree with that gentleman over there. I was thinking about it today while I was in the combine. We can build more roads and we can build lots more buildings, but we don't get more farm ground. We can't take that. So I think we should utilize the areas that we have allowed for, try to keep that growth together. And frankly, as a planner, the area that we're talking about, I originally saw that as housing. So those are my thoughts, I guess.
Those are all very good points, Margo, and I totally understand what you're saying, and that warehouse that you're talking about, I drove that way coming in, and I just kind of refreshed my memory on that, and I specifically looked at that going, but what about? And so that was something too that was also on my mind. I do have a question though on the additional handout that we got here tonight when we came in under the recommendations, and it's the second bullet point under the permitted principal uses on the subject property shall be restricted to indoor manufacturing, indoor warehousing, storage with no exterior storage of equipment or materials. Okay, so they're not going to actually utilize it, it's going to be up for market. Who monitors this and how is this enforced?
Yeah, at the end of the day, if the rezoning gets approved, that's a condition of approval that runs its report, it goes with the land, and that would have to be enforced by the zoning administrator. Yes. In terms of if there was an exterior storage violation, correct.
So is that something that, like, annually, I mean,
Complaint basis, or, you drive by and you see there's a problem, or, yeah, that's typically how those issues come up, so I'm quite really good. Staff initiated.
Bert's got a good point though on that. Once it's zoned, anything that's listed in our industrial area can go in there, and it's not going to come before this board.
No, there's a restriction. It's more like a covenant I just placed out there.
There's restrictions on that, but if you rezone the area,
Oh, okay, go ahead. The area.
the rest of that area,
Well, but again, that'll be reviewed under its own merits, and may, we don't know what will be
it
submitted.
won't come here though. It won't come before our board.
No.
Those are the concerns that we
Oh, no,
have
they'd
to
be
address.
still, it's subject to those uses right there. I mean, indoor manufacturing, indoor warehouse,
Right.
exterior storage, nothing else.
Yeah.
So clean, in my opinion, clean industry.
So then if they were to market this out to
They're bound by that.
They're bound by that, so they have to.
And that they could come back and request that be amended and they have to go through the whole public hearing process. It has to be reviewed.
You know, once it's industrial, once it's an I-1 industrial district, this is a whole list of things that could go in there.
Good, but
That are not gonna come before planning and zoning board, and they go to board of adjustment if it's a conditional use permit or something, but the public isn't gonna really have that comment section.
that whole section goes away. It's restricted only to those allowable uses. 3 uses only on that 45 acres only, and he's agreed to that. So that's something we discussed. Because you look at, there's all, you know, there's all kinds of other uses in there. And they just say, no, this is more applicable. We want to keep everything inside. We want a neat appearance. We don't want any negative adverse impacts to the adjacent properties. We don't want anything to be unsightly, et cetera. So.
Just out of curiosity, Jeff, how do you enforce the tree thing?
The tree thing.
Yeah.
So,
Trees.
they'll be required to hire a landscape architect, to put the plans together, like, they're licensed by the city. And they'll address the quantities, the height. You know, our landscape code is rather, and so what you see, this plan gets approved, we're looking at a staggered concept, screening, and we have to negotiate the height of those plantings, and then after that 2 to 3 year period, we go out. I go out and do annual inspections if something had died, and so they're required to replace that to make sure that that's a living buffer. Usually, once a landscape material is planted, there's a high success rate after a year. If it's succeeded after a year or two, that it's going to continue to succeed. So to be safe, we put 2 to 3 years on, just to go out there and monitor it over that time frame, just to make sure we have a healthy buffer. I mean, could we go back if something was missing? I think, you know, work with the stumps to put something in, you know, down the road. Yeah. I think that
They're gonna sell it, they won't even need an order after 2 or 3 years.
I've got a question for you. So I know that there is requirements as far as light readings, nothing as far as noise or anything like that, though. That's a very.
Well, that's a good point. Again, everything's gonna be indoors, so, yeah.
This is like sitting out there.
I have to agree with Darren on the spot zoning. You and I talked about this, and we're just gonna, I guess, agree to disagree on it, but I'm just looking at it from a planner standpoint, so like I said, I look at that area and, you know, when we go to review it, and it's been brought up to me that there are a lot of little spot zones out in the county. Well, some of those have occurred prior to our zoning ordinances going in place. So it's hard to look at other areas of the county and say, well, wait a minute, well, how come this place is here? And I believe Mr. Pearson pointed that out about white transport storage. And that was in place before zoning ordinances. Now we have zoning ordinances. And part of the reason we do is to kind of stop that urban sprawl look. So, you know, that's one of the things that I guess I'm looking at, and I'm seeing it as spot zoning. So board?
Yes.
Sorry, I got covered. Look at how fast they changed. They got the gas station, where we back to how fast. Then, so once this gets passed, how fast is it going to be the next thing? That's what I'm worried about. I could live with the gas station, I could live with even that warehouse thing, but then what's after that, and what's after that, and what's after that? It just seems like once you start, it's just like, that's my thing.
And that's a really good point, because that's, again, that's one of the reasons we do have zoning, is so that we don't have that progression of, you know, what can happen here, what can happen. You know, by using just definition, I mean, we could see that, you know, if you're gonna use the clump, and that's my point against using the clump, is that you can see that basically anywhere. You could see, anybody who takes clump has 3 tiers versus our future land use map, which has quite a few more tiers. And it breaks that down into more smaller areas, so that you don't have just this generalized, anything can go anywhere kind of look. You know, so that's, I guess, one of the purposes, one of the things that I look at as a planner. My board members may not disagree with me, but that's one of the things that I look at. we agree to disagree all the time.
No, no, I agree. Yeah.
We agree to disagree all the time. So, board, if we have no more questions or comments or anything, if we have a motion. And I noticed that you didn't actually write a motion out.
No, I didn't. I'm
That's
sorry,
okay.
I can in
No.
the future, but yeah.
No, that's all right. I mean, we can move around.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Board, should we just make a motion to, try to make this as simple as possible, to vote for the rezone from A1 agricultural preservation to I1 industrial of the 44.8 acres of vacant land located in the section of Poplar Avenue, the US Highway 20. Would you like to vote for or against? Is that motion?
Yeah, keep it simple, because I think last,
That's what I
last
had to
time
do.
it was kind of
Yeah.
confusing, it's like, I'm voting for, against,
Yeah.
which way, yeah, it got really confusing, so.
Yeah.
So whoever, can we make the motion, say that motion to vote against it, and then we go based on that, or how?
No, just, if there's a motion, it should be to approve the requested change in the zoning designation to A1, subject to the restrictions set forth. And then you can either say yes or no. Yeah, yes vote would be yes, we should change it, and no vote would be no, it stays.
Would one of y'all like to take responsibility for Mr. Driscoll's motion?
Yeah, so I can't make a motion.
Yeah,
sorry.
he can't make the motion, so.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
For what you said, to make it.
Do we have a second? All right, let's have a roll call vote. My vote is against it. Daniel,
Yes, for it.
Laura? No. Or against? Gary?
No.
You're against? Tommy?
No, yes.
And Verna?
No,
So what's your vote on there?
No, yes.
Oh, no, against stuff there.
So we have 5 against that motion and 1 for that motion. That's all business. Jeff, just real quick, can I just touch on for new business? Do you have information from coming for our populations? Do you have something from the census board coming?
It's coming. It's either gonna be November, December. It's come out a little bit later than anticipated. Last time I was in contact with the contact person was probably a month or 2 ago. And they were targeting November meeting, but I don't think it's gonna be November. We keep pushing this date up. So
All right.
it's gonna happen in the next few months.
All right, before somebody makes a motion to adjourn, I just want to thank everybody for coming. I know I'm glad that we can come and have these conversations and we can stay civil and we can listen to everybody else and listen to their point of views and try to do the best thing for the county as a whole. So I appreciate your participation.
We appreciate you guys. And until you get involved in this, we don't realize how much time we have to you guys do.
It's interesting.
Yes, but thank you for that. Is this going to go for the board of supervisors?
Yes, this will now go to the board of supervisors. Our vote is against the rezone.
And when is that?
Jeff, this is probably going to be prepared for a week from.
It's gonna be in November sometime. Yeah, I'm gonna be out of the office, out of state for the next couple of weeks. But we'll be back mid-November. So there's a potential for 3 readings. So, yeah, they're all public hearings. The board of supervisors may go ahead with that second reading, waive that. See what, that's their decision, but I believe, I don't have the calendar. Let me see. There's a date I was targeting in November. And I have to clear this with the supervisors, it'd be a special meeting on the 16th. That'd be the first.
Okay, so what we're saying is tentatively, a special meeting on the 16th of November is when the board of supervisors is going to get this information.
But contact my office, early November, and I would recommend you contact the office either the first or the second. And I can get a better idea.
Put it in, where they put paper or how do they?
We put it in the paper, but the county ordinance or code requires that we notify it by the. So, you won't be getting a notice, that's just how it is, Mr. Faith, but,
So I gotta watch the papers,
Yeah,
what's the website?
Watch the website, if you get on the county's website, under
Contact our
the board of
office, we'll let you know.
supervisors, they generally always have their agendas on, sometimes for those special meetings, I've noticed that they're having all the family agenda posted.
They have to have 24 hours.
Yeah, 24 hours.
So it's a short window for a special meeting.
Yeah.
And this is gonna be a special meeting.
That's what we're shooting for, because right now, the regular meetings are the 9th and 23rd, won't be able to make the 9th based on my schedule. So we're looking at a special meeting for the 16th, but the board of supervisors has to approve that meeting, whether or not we're gonna have a special meeting. If not, then we're looking at. the
On
regular
special
meeting on the
meeting, on a
23rd.
special meeting,
That's just,
what's the rate, do they all have to be there, or how do you guys, what's the rules on that?
Three is the quorum for the 5, so 3 of 5 have to be there. Like when the last step for the commercial designation went, we had 2 supervisors who were out of town. So we had 3, and that was a minimum quorum, so they needed to have a majority of those in attendance. You got to get 2 out of 3 of that 3.
They have to have a super majority to overturn.
Okay, they needed all 3.
I believe they have to have a super majority, which would be more than, isn't that correct, Jeff, to overturn our decision?
no, I don't
Well,
know.
they just said they have to-
Just have to, yeah, this is standard.
We'll have to check into that and see, check with state bio and see what they say. I was under the impression that it was one other issue where they had to have a super majority to overturn the board, so. We'll find that
We'll
out.
find that out. But the earliest, again, would be the 16th.
Okay,
That would be the very earliest.
this young lady has a.
My question was then, well, since you heard the vote tonight, you present to the supervisors that the board did not
That's
recommend.
the recommendation moves forward, it's in the staff report. So there's a recommendation from the planning and zoning commission, there's a recommendation from staff, the board of supervisors takes into consideration both recommendations.
So the newspaper article last time said that planning and zoning recommended it. When I read this article after that meeting, the first article, it said it was voted 5-2. And then it said in the paper that it was presented that planning and zoning, you should go ahead with it.
So the planning and zoning board is different than.
So you went and recommended that they do it last time,
But we recommend staff recommendation.
despite what your commission said? So how about next meeting?
Staff's recommendation.
So what will you say? Go to that.
So we summarize, the minutes will be provided to the board of supervisors. And they'll summarize this meeting based on the concerns that you had. Basically, the majority of them were safety and pertaining to traffic and maybe some buffering issues, and obviously spot zoning will be brought up and so forth. And so their recommendation, my recommendation, all moves forward through the public hearing process, and the supervisors have to sort through all of that and make a final decision.
But what will your recommendation be?
for approval. My recommendation is not to change.
Jeff, when do legal challenges have to be raised?
He can't give you legal advice, neither can I, but
No, I'm just asking about the timing, is it before or after? the board of
again, I can't, that's a legal question that you want to ask the private.
And Jeff is a county employee, and he is in charge of the plan and zoning. We are the commission that is appointed by the board of supervisors. We don't always agree. And we don't necessarily have to agree. I think, if we have a lot of, and we talked about this once before years ago with our board, that if our board was so far out of whack with each other as far as agreeing on something or disagreeing on something, that maybe we need to dig into the issue deeper and look at it so that we could kind of recommend all together. But, you know, we're all individuals, everyone has their opinion as to the public. But, yeah, we don't always agree with Jeff, and Jeff doesn't always agree with us, and
There's things we agree on tonight, there's some things I agree with you
Yeah.
on internally and myself, and there's things I disagree on, but, you know, we just flew ahead.
Do you have the answer to the supermajority voting on the 16th, or when will that be?
Derek, would you be able to have an answer on that, whether they need a supermajority to overturn?
I can
But prior to that
prepare notes, you can give me your authority, and I'll see if I can find the code, you seem to be better versed on the supermajority.
meeting, I'll check, it came up one other time, I guess, that's what I was thinking, I remember that, but.
So the 16th will be, you'll verify that.
Yeah, we can maybe have them clarify prior to the vote, clarify what, you know, talk with the board of supervisors and maybe
That's how
Jeff,
many votes required.
yeah, prior.
Well, for the supermajority, we'll
Yeah.
actually.
So,
But will there be a vote at first consideration?
Yes, my recollection is there was a vote that yes, it should move forward. They voted, I remember they voted, I believe 5-0 the first meeting, and then they voted to waive the second meeting, and that's third.
Because the third is the final vote.
Third were unanimous.
Yeah, the third is.
With a quorum of 3.
all right, okay, board, is anyone? Oh, Cesar.
Just please let the record also show that whatever decision is made, you know, it's rational, everyone. But if there is loss of life and some accident happens, that's all the people that voted for this, that said, yes, this is a great thing to do. And we just have to wait and see. It's a terrible thing, and there's a better place. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants that.
no, absolutely not.
All right, okay, board, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Yes.
Motion set right there.
All right, who wants to make a motion? Daniel?
Sure.
And Bernard, you are the second? Yep. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn, is that vote unanimous? Say aye. 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 All right, thank you very much, board, and thank you folks for coming.
Hey, like,